Hi, good afternoon, Avi. How are you?
I'm blessed and grateful to be on your show, Serene.
Thank you. And for those of you who are joining us, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome. Welcome to the Serene View. The Serene View is a weekly video podcast that I do about different aspects of conscious business. And for this series, all the way until the end of May, we are really looking at workplace mental health and what can be done to address what I think is the biggest crisis around people right now within organizations. And today we have with us Avi Liran, a close friend of mine who is a wonderful expert at delightful workplaces. Now, if you, like me, are thinking in your head, delightful workplaces, are you sure? Well, Avi is the man to talk to. He spent the last 15 years delivering delight to different organizations. He's an expert at delivering delightful workplaces. And even better yet, he's a humorist. So we're looking forward to a wonderful session from him. So, Avi, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, thank you, Serene, for the introduction. I came from the business. I was a CMO of two companies. I was also in the government. I was a diplomat. I was a trade commissioner of Israel and Singapore. I created the fund between Israel and Singapore, pioneered it, and I also negotiated a fund that now is running $1 billion over there. I worked with Singtel afterwards after I quit to invest in 9 companies in Israel, in startups. So I've been there on leadership positions, and I had been given often also as an officer in the army, some teams that needed some work. They were disengaged and not motivated. So everything that I say, I had to work it out. I had toxic bosses. I learned from them what not to do. I had great bosses that I learned from them what I should do. And since 2006, I'm on the journey to take everything that I learned and went to a lot of research in behavioral economy. I'm an economist, and in positive psychology to see what the science says and how to implement it. And with hundreds of clients, we did just that. We brought the delight factor that really make a change, and be very happy to share it with all of you guys, what we've done. Thanks.
Yes, I think that you really need to share with us, right? Because here we are talking about delightful workplaces, and I think for many of us, this is an inconceivable thing, right? I mean, isn't a workplace a source of stress and distress? So, what does a delightful workplace look like?
I'm glad you asked. Let me just see if I can put on the slides. And I often been asked that. So let me give you just a promise. If you make yourself bring the best in yourself, I call it Chief Delighting Officer, and everybody is. 8 billion of us has the capacity to be one. But here is a promise. When you decide to have a delightful mindset, 3 things will happen to you. The first one, because you're intentional and mindful, you're going to make everybody around you better. Now, when you make everybody better, you invest in them. And investment gets you ROI. You're going to get 10 folds or even more what you invest in your team, and you're going to perform well. And the third thing, you're going to be much happier. And happiness is a result of having happy habits. It's not something to pursue. It's something that you need to embed into your small habits in life. So you ask a great question. And let me tell you that every place that I go, people say, oh, we are so stressed. We can't deal. What are you talking about? Delightful. We need to work about change, and we don't have time to be delightful. Forget about it. So what we see, typically, we see that majority of the companies are having transactional culture. So let me ask you a question. And now that's based a little bit about research published in 2013, almost a decade ago in HBR. Now, if you, Serena, are working for a transactional leader between 0 to 100%, how much effort percent you're going to give to that person? It doesn't care about you, just care about results.
Well, I mean 50, right? So whatever is fair for me to give, I will give based on whatever I'm paid. That's what I think. I mean, those of you who are listening to us, like, drop in your comments. What do you think is the answer to this?
Exactly. What would you give when you are viewing here? You have a leader that just wants you to bring results, doesn't care anything about you. How much would you put in? Well, let me give you the answer for the sake of time. Well, for 60,000 people, they say that they're gonna give 14%. Now, on the other side, you're gonna see that there are some pleasing cultures, and pleasing cultures is not very sustainable because it's usually subculture. There's some division. The person is very, very kind, very friendly. The problem is often they don't just bring results, they just focus on being friendly. So if you had a leader that leads from the heart but does not deliver results, between 0 to 100%, how much would you follow that person?
So for those of you
Serene.
who are listening to us, yes. For those of you who are listening to us, I'm just putting in the question. For if you have a leader who leads from the heart, how much would you give them? So, oh, I see a couple of comments. Just enough to keep the job. 100% because she's working for meaning. That's from Philip. Thank you, Philip. Yes. Okay, but from Vadea, just enough to keep the job. Okay. All right.
Well, the interesting thing is that it was 12%. And I'm an officer in the army, and I can tell you for sure that I'd rather follow someone who is not really nice but get me to safety. But I would very be cautious of someone who doesn't know where he's going. I can get killed. So that is a surprising thing, but not so surprising because at the end of the day, it's not a choice between results and being friendly and being supportive and developing. It has to be this and that. So there it comes to, this is an example of a company that went overboard, and WeWork, and the CEO became only about me, friendly and all that, and it almost collapsed. So I can tell you that, Serene, you had a question before about likability. So
Yeah. So I guess this is true, right? Because Gallup tells us that your immediate superior is a big factor in your happiness at work. So does that mean that if they are likable, they are better? If they're not likable, they are not as good? Those of you who are listening to us, what do you think? Do you think that um, being likable is the mark of a great leader? Okay, so Robin tells us no. He feels that leading from the heart is not the same as leading a team. Okay, that's from Robin. Thank you. And
thank you.
from Verdane, if I'm mispronouncing your name, text me what it should be pronounced as. But she feels that psychological safety is much more important than ever before. So yes, you have to be nice to people. That's what we think. I think so too.
I agree with both of the comments, and let me just tie it up together. So what we did, we embarked on 2.5 years of research. We interviewed about 220 leaders in 37 countries, and what you see here is going to be launched next month. It's about 400 pages that I give credit to my partner Daniel Lee, who did the majority of the work. And the answer that we got is that if you want to be likable as a goal, you may be actually compromising because sometimes you will need to make tough decisions. So likability as a goal is not something that the leaders valued. Actually, they said if you do the right things, if you develop the people, if you are showing them with clarity what needs to happen, and sometimes it's not easy stuff because sometimes you have goals to achieve, and you need to do sometimes things that are not so popular. But if you are getting yourself to be trusted and you're authentic, likability will become as a result rather than the goal. So I could tell you that the biggest waste that I see is companies that are actually good. And places that it's nice to work, you come to work, you are respected, you have the safety, the psychological safety, but they could just make the oomph a little bit more to become a delightful workplace and invest a little bit more in the people. And that's the interesting thing that I call delightful culture. Regretfully, it's about maybe 5% to 10% of the companies in the world. And here is what's happened, what is measurable in companies that are aiming all the time to become best place to work, becoming a delightful place where people are happy to come to work, to join with each other. So what happens when you combine the heart and the brain? How much would you follow that leader?
Well, if we are looking at our audience, Robin tells us that, it's not just likable, you have to get things done, and that you have to understand the leader and have been a right team, which is why we are ignoring Wayne, because we're not being likable today, Wayne, but good afternoon anyway. And Philip tells us that, tough decisions doesn't mean you're not likable. No, Philip, it does mean you're not likable. I don't like tough
Absolutely.
decisions.
I totally agree with Philip. I totally agree with Philip.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely, because what he says, when you take tough decisions and you have to take them, it doesn't mean you're not going to be likable, but you're going to be trusted. The problem happens with people that try to please no matter what. They want to be likable no matter what. The person that has to take a tough decision knows how to communicate it beautifully with clarity and say, sorry, we have tough decision to do it. Integrity and trust, and that gets you to be likable for the long way. But if you just try to please everybody all the time, it's number one, it's impossible. Number two, you're going on the wrong goal. Be authentic, do the right thing, develop the people. They gonna eventually gonna like you. Sometimes you have to start in a tough way. We had many things that happened last year that needed to take some tough decisions that were not so popular. So the answer is 72%.
Is it like what Verdane has said? I mean, the effectiveness first. I mean, that you need to get the job done before anything else. Like, likability comes later. Let's get the job done. Do you think that's...
I would say it comes together, like Philip said. It doesn't mean that it has to contrast with that. It is once you are a person of integrity and you do the tough things, but your goal is not to be likable. Your goal is to develop your team, is to do the good things for your team for a long term. That eventually going to make you likable for the long term. And maybe one day you're not going to be popular because you're taking a decision that is not popular today. And that's okay. Don't like me today. But, like parents, sometimes you have to make a difficult decision. The kid may say, no, I don't like it. And say, okay, I know it's for your own good. So anyway, so here are some of the benefits.
Getting the job done, but also an interest in developing people, and able to understand the strengths of the team and take a personal interest in them, as Wayne has commented on. Yes, of course, Philip, you are tough and you're likable. Is that are you pitching for yourself? Yes, no, go on. Sorry, Avi. Tell us what's the benefit.
I tend to agree with Philip again, because some of the people that work with me that were extremely tough were extremely reliable, made me the better person that I could be. And tough is not the opposite of likable. And I grew to like them. They are still on my Facebook. They're still good friends of mine. Now, here is some data. According to Gallup, beautiful things happen in delightful workplaces. You have better customer experience. You have much profitability and sales and productivity, and you retain talent. Of course, talent wants to be at a good place. And Philip says there is no such thing getting a job first done. Yeah, I agree. In delightful culture, also the things that are negative are much less. So you have 400% less burnout and much less safety issues. And also from MIT, we know that these companies where you have the psychological safety, where you're doing things for result and you are friendly with your people, you're going to get double the revenue from creativity and innovation. Of course, it's a place that it's safe to raise your ideas, and you can even measure it in double the net promoting score.
Yes. In Philip's defense, he's saying he's not talking about himself. Yes. And when it's contrasting two people, right? One that was the best that he's ever worked with, really played to the strength, and one that only got a job done and ignored the people. I mean, is this what
Absolutely.
you're going to share with us? The kind of leaders that are great and terrible?
Well, at all time, also we as leaders, we have good days and bad days, and we have decisions to make. And I call a situation where we are upset, frustrated, transactional, I call it airplane mode. And like in a mobile phone, in airplane mode, you don't receive data, you don't communicate, you lose the ability to enjoy from the vast benefit of all the World Wide Web. And I tend to say that you could switch to delight mode and understand your settings, what's going on, and reset yourself for success. So today I'll take you through. I could talk for hours about it. For our research show, there's about 28 ideas that you could do. But what do you say?
Sharing with us 28 ideas. Is that what you're sharing with us? 28 ideas? Wow. I don't think we have time for 28 ideas, but can I have like the most best one idea? Like just hit me with the best. What if I want to get out there and I want to do it now? What is the one best thing that I can do?
Fantastic. So there's one thing that I think everybody knows, but not really doing it very effectively. And I would say is be chief appreciating officer and appreciation. So maybe I'll tease you guys with a question. Imagine that you did very well and you managed to achieve a project or anything really, really great. And you have the first option is to be recognized in public, that your direct manager or the CEO put you on stage and say, talk about how great you did. So that would be option A. The option B would be that your direct manager or the manager of your manager will come to you, tell you exactly what you did, thank you, tell you about the impact of what you did, and maybe even coach you for how to become more successful. That's option B. Which one would you choose, A or B?
Those of you who are listening to us, text it in the text. I mean, put it into the comments. Do you prefer public recognition? Do you prefer private recognition? And you can tell us why. That I'll appreciate it as well. So Wayne says he's always CEO. He's always the CEO. But look, if your client wants to give you a recognition, would you prefer that like in public, in private? Okay, so Wayne chooses B. He prefers private appreciation. Okay, let's see.
We asked this question. We got thousands of answers in just last year, and majority of the people say B, and some people say, why do I have to choose? I want A and B. And probably, and here you go, the death of the employee of the month, because it's not something that means, especially to the young generation, as much as showing interest and developing them. Public can motivate, however, is not as motivating. Imagine that you are the CEO or deputy CEO come to you and say, I heard about what you did. I think that means more for majority of the young people today. Now, a lot of people mix between recognition and appreciation. Can I share with you a little bit about a research about that? And
Yes,
first,
of course.
what's the difference between recognition and appreciation? Recognition is when you're recognized for something that you did, a milestone, a project that you finish, something that you did well. And appreciation is constant, it's all the time. And sometimes it's needed, especially when you made a lot of effort, but let's say we lost the tender, but your effort should not be discounted. So in Haas Business School, in UC Berkeley, they did a study and they found that people that feel recognized are 23 more effective and productive. Now, when you talk about appreciation, how much do you think the number is when you talk about appreciation?
Those of you who are listening to us, how do you think, what is the number that you think, appreciate being appreciated? Am I saying it right? What is the number? Just throw in the numbers. What do y'all think?
How much more effective and productive would people be?
How much more effective and productive would people be if they were appreciated?
Thank you, Wayne. There's also another thing that appreciation at the extreme side need to come to encouragement when people fail. And a lot of people forget that. That's a time when you uplift people. Well, Verdane, you're almost right. It's 43% more effective and more productive. People want to be appreciated at all time. And there is a, thank you, Robin, 80%. That's ambitious. All right, but maybe Wayne is right. If you take 80 top 80% on 23, maybe he's right. It's very close. All right, so I can tell you on the flip side, people that don't feel appreciated are likely not to stay in their job. Nobody likes to be unappreciated, feel like they're useless. And self-esteem is very important for us. So maybe I could share with you a few levels of delivering delight of appreciation via stories, or maybe we could pause in and take some questions from people.
Yes. Send us your questions. Send us all the questions that you want. Anything you want to ask Avi, or even object to what he's saying, just send it in, put it in the post. It does take a little while for the comments to come up, so send it in. We will definitely get to it.
So maybe I start sharing with you a little bit about a few ways of appreciation and recognition. So we all know the golden rule is I should love other people like I love myself. But here is a twist to it and a tough thing. So let me take an example. Imagine that I love peanut butter and I buy you $100 worth of peanut butter, the best in the world, flown from Georgia. And you have an allergy for peanut butter. I could actually do harm to you when I make an assumption that you want to be appreciated the way that I like to be appreciated. So the first rule is learn about how people like to be appreciated. A or B, that's a good example. And this is Brian. Brian was our intern. I'm extremely proud of Brian. Now he's an entrepreneur. He has a coffee company and he's making the second company that he has. Now, one of the things that I did, when I walked with him before he started working for us, I found out that his passion is Formula One. He loves to be a Formula One driver, but he didn't have the $1 million to put in it. So we ended up at what you call Formula 4, and it's a go-kart that we have in Singapore. And I happen to know the champion in Singapore. So I invited the champion for lunch with us, and he didn't know about it, so he was totally surprised. And he took him to his team. And what happened at the end, this is Brian winning 3 awards, and we, people from Delivering Delight, all of us, his family, his dad flew from France, and his girlfriend, and when you understand what makes other people tick, and you make it just a small effort. I just needed to call Duncan and provide lunch. And what do you think happened to the motivation of Brian afterwards? He was already motivated. He was a fantastic worker, probably one of the best I ever had. But what do you think will happen to his motivation? Of course, it's going to be more successful. And as a leader, as a delightful leader, as you get to know your people better, sometimes it's a very small effort for you to appreciate them very well. Look at his face. It's a face of pride. So the next level is surprise. And I'll tell you a story. This is a real story told to me by Chip Conley, who is one of my mentors. He was the chief hospitality officer of Airbnb, and he was the CEO and founder of Joie de Vivre Hotels. And one time, he remembered a story in South America that Rodriguez was a guard. And what happened, nobody replaced him over the weekend. And over the weekend, there was an attack. And he was there to fend and defend and chase away the people. And he really protected them. Without him, they would have been dead. And what the CEO of the company did is actually handwritten a thank you note for the wife and send it to their home and say, thank you. I really apologize that your husband had to stay for additional 72 hours and was not replaced. So I ask your forgiveness, and of course he's going to get the extra time, but I want you to know that your husband is a hero. And he gave few tickets to the opera for the entire family. And guess what? We all want to be heroes in front of our family. So this surprise and making it personal didn't cost much, but it made the entire family so happy. And what do you think happened to his motivation? And that company is very known to have great culture. What will happen next time when he doesn't come up for the weekend? His wife say, go, I trust you, go.
Well, we have a question. Vaden has written and say, how does authenticity impact, the intent of showing appreciation?
That's a great question, Verlene. Let me just fast forward to something else, to this. This is caution. You're going to lose credibility if you're going to try to fake a praise. If you're going to try to say things that you don't mean, people will not trust you anymore. And the worst thing is if you say something nice about something that you don't like, then people will continue doing it because they think that you want this to happen. So you have to be really authentic. I think the problem is that not people are not authentic, is they just don't see the things, they take it for granted. They don't develop the eye to look and spot and find out what's going on, that I could catch someone today doing the right thing. But definitely, Verdine, you're absolutely right. Don't be inauthentic.
But actually, I think that one of the struggles as leaders is not so much that I think we are inauthentic, but that we are so busy that it comes out sounding inauthentic, right? I mean, I see something, I note that it's something I really appreciate, but I'm so rushed to do the next thing that I'm like, okay, you know what, that's really good. And then I'm on. And if that's the way I'm giving out my appreciation, okay, I really appreciate you doing this. Does it even sound like I appreciate that person? And I hear it all the time, right? It's not as though I genuinely appreciate, and yet it doesn't come out sounding right. I think.
Absolutely. So Verdine, this is an hygiene factor. Don't be inauthentic. And a little bit about the slide over here, there was an experiment that a lady in Facebook did. She put appreciation cards. You know, they have a place where in Facebook you could take anything that you want. You just need to put your code so you could work with it. And interestingly, within 5 minutes or so, all the appreciation card disappeared. And that's a great way to surprise someone and write a handwritten note to them about what they did and what you appreciate about them. In the digital world, there are some applications. The reason why I put Beekeeper is that last year they won #1 before Slack. This year they went to #4, and they have ability to share appreciation. It's not the only mobile application that allows you to do it, but if you share the appreciation between each other, between peers and bosses, the atmosphere when you feel appreciated is so much different. So what is the opposite of surprise? The opposite of surprise is to do it all the time, is to weave appreciation into your culture. And that's the other level. So companies like Joie de Vivre with Cheap, what they did in the previous crisis, they did it also at the .com. They went from 90% occupancy to 20, and then September 11, the same. So what they did, they say every director that comes for the morning meeting needs to tell us a good story that happened in the hotel. In each one of the hotels, the GM came together. And this is an amazing thing that you could do and practice it in your company, in your team. Even if you are a team leader with an unappreciative boss, you could still do it for your own team and start looking for the good answers in the morning. Make 18-minute stand-up meeting and start it with what good happened. And what Chip did an extra mile to that, he asked the cross property. So if I'm the GM of the Vitali, I will go to the Hard Rock Hotel and I'm going to go there and tell the guy, we talked about you this morning. So that goes also beating up the silos. People know what other people did in different places. So weave it into your culture, make it part of your routine to appreciate people. Open up with what is the good thing that happened. Of course, you need to deal with what not good happened, but start on a high note. And he said that thing that they did consistently until end of times was really uplifting them during the crisis. And now I have a question for you guys, because there is a sentence that if you say that sentence to someone that really did well, it would show great appreciation to that person. So what is a one sentence? I think it's 5 words that will make someone feel 11 out of 10 when you tell them as their leader.
So, guys, put it into the comments. What do you think is the sentence? 5 words only, okay? 5 words. What do you think is the 5 words that would make people feel?
And it's coming back to what you said, Serene, because if someone said just good job, it sounds very transactional. So there is a sentence that touches you emotionally. And let me give you a clue. If you are a parent, you know it. And if you were born to a parent, you definitely know it. So let's conclude 100% of us. So what is a sentence that you want to hear from your parent?
Well, Robin says, I really appreciate your effort. Wayne says, I love what you did. What do you think?
This is 2 good things. I really appreciate your effort. That's really great. You are around 7 and 8. I love what you did. It's great. What do you want that your parents feel for you? What do you want them to feel?
What do the rest of you think? Come, put it in. I'm a parent and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what should I say to my kid? Or what would I like to say to my kid? Or what would I like my parents to say to me? I have no idea. I guess I love you would be very close. I mean, close to what Wayne has said. What about the rest of you? What do you all think? Vadane, Hina, what do you all think? Yes?
Let me know when I should reveal the answer.
We'll give you guys another 3 more seconds and then we'll reveal the answer. Let me see. Let me give another guess while we are at it. I'm proud of you. That's something I would love to hear from my parents.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you. Yes. Oh, and wow. All right.
Because we want our superiors, our parents, people, we want them to be proud of us. And what I want to share with you is an Israeli word, a Hebrew word that is called nachat. Nachat basically means the joy, the sense of gratification and pride that you feel when your offspring is doing well. And I call it the leadership KPI. Think about it. If you have a paper, write the names of your direct reports and write next to each one of them between 0 to 100, how much are you proud of each one of them? And then write on the next line, why are you proud of them? Now, if your pride level is below 50%, what could you do better in order to be proud of them? Are you micromanaging them? Did you develop them well? Are you connecting with them and understanding where they are? Because it's not healthy to be with a team that you are 50% not proud of them. That immediately tells me that you're not trusting them. And it's your responsibility as a leader. And you only know, nobody knows what is your nachat level, what is your pride level in the people. If you look at that consciously and think, what can I do to increase for that lady so I could be more proud of her? What could I do? It will give you an indication where you have to have immediately things that you could correct at your place.
And do you think that, it's important to people that people will feel like, oh, I have more workplace wellness if my boss is proud of me? I mean, those of you who are listening to this, if you work for a boss, or if you don't work for a boss, you're your own boss. If you think of it, if your clients come and tell you, I'm so proud of you, your boss can tell you, I'm so proud of you, does that improve your workplace wellness? What do you guys think?
As you share it, I can tell you, you have to be very careful when you say this sentence to superior and peers, because it may look condescending. You may want, when you talk to peers and superiors, to say, you should be so proud of yourself. So it's basically the same thing, but coming from same level and not up down.
Right. Yes. I don't know. I mean, those of you who are listening to this, tell us, do you feel that, if I say, oh, you should be so proud of yourself, or I'm so proud of you, that would be something that can relieve all the stress and really like make you feel a delight to work? Okay. Yes, Hina says, Hina got it right too. She says, we are proud of you. That's what she wanted to hear from his parents. Yes, Hina, you're right. I wonder if is it an Asian thing to want to be proud? I mean, want your parents to be proud of you?
It's international. It's
Really?
international. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So those of you who are listening to this, tell us, do you want them to feel proud of you?
So I want to share with you a practical Wednesday. I think it depends who says it and how I feel about the person saying it. Yeah, you're correct. Of course. This gentleman is the richest person in Myanmar. I'm not so keen about him now because he's not going against the coup, which I think that is terrible now. But what he does, he has 3 bands on his hand, and every time he finds someone to praise or help, he will take and move to the other hand. So you could have bands as well, or you can take coins on your left pocket, and every time that you praise, you move the coin from one side of your jeans to the other side, whichever makes it. But if you want to develop appreciation as a habit, and it's not a habit yet, I'm actually blessed. I was born with the ability to find the best in other people. Sometimes, regretfully, I see the other part of me that is the chief critical officer of myself and others, and I don't like that so much. So you're going to see a post that I'm going to put later on LinkedIn, and I call it reverse gossip is the art of praising people behind their back. And speak good, be impeccable with your words, be intentional about it.
I think Hina agrees. Hina was saying that it's very motivational when the bosses that she's proud, they are proud of you, and also that it's great to have you on the team. So it's very motivational to have that. But as you have noted about your chief critical officer, Johnson wants to know, what do you do about these people at the workplace? And look, I've not met a workplace where there are no negative people. There will always be some So what do we do?
Oh, I love that question, Johnson. I think that if you haven't met a toxic person or leader in your organization, you're probably not alive. And they were sent to us to teach us what we should never do. And I have a story, but not for the time frame that we have now, about a toxic leader that I almost quit because of that person. Lucky for me, to make a long story short, I was offered a job that eventually I became his boss. So first, you need to have your personal resilience, know who you are and what you are. And that starts with that. And the question is, the better talent you are, the more likely that you don't have to suffer a toxic leader. Now, as an organization, if you go back to what I said about transactional companies will keep people, top performer that could be toxic. They're going to keep them because they just bring the dollar in, but they do a lot of damage, and then they create exodus of people like you. Now, how do you overcome? To be very specific to you, first, know who you are and what you are. Don't let other people tell you who you are. And I learned it when I was in the army. I wanted to be an officer. And Major Biran said that I'm going to be an officer over his dead body. And I was really devastated. But then Captain Kotek told me, look, Avi, if a pigeon will poop on your shoulder, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to do this. And I said, exactly. That's not you. Just take it out. What happened is when we, forgive me for the metaphor, when we put our feet into manure of dogs, what we need to do is just wash it. But what we sometimes do to ourselves is we pick up the manure, put it in our hands, put it on our face, and say, we have manure. Now, the first thing that you do is you don't do that. Now, if that toxic leader is uncoachable, if your culture does not allow to remove that person, then you need to think, what are your options? If you can move to another place, great. Another thing that happened, I worked with Marina Bay Sands at that time that were 140 places in TripAdvisor. And within 7 months working with us, they went to 36. And at the end, a gentleman called Ivo, who was one of the top executives, he told me, Avi, don't think, and we kept in touch until today, don't think that everybody is going to be joyful and delightful. But I use the delightful mindset as an umbrella. I shield my team from the manure that come from outside, and I deal with them as a chief delighting officer. But I get so many knives in my back, but I know how to handle it. But that doesn't mean that the culture is toxic. There's some people that are going to be toxic. You could overcome them if you know who you are. By the way, Ivo was headhunted, and now he manages Apple stores in Singapore because he was a delightful leader that everybody likes to work for. And when Apple were looking for people that are consistently taking care of people and giving results, they headhunted him. So the first thing, it's not about you, it's about them. Second, try to manage your team, and you could make a successful team. And you know what? Maybe like me, you're just going to become the boss of your boss. And if it's really toxic and costs you health, find another place. Even if you need to go for a few months and just detox, don't suffer the toxicity. And by the way, Major Biran, I became an officer. And when I had my first bar, I came to him and I said, there is life after death after all.
Well, I mean, Vadane tells us that, well, it depends on authenticity of the command and whether the leader is able to articulate why, right? A general command, you don't really feel very appreciated, but if you are perhaps more specific, and I think Hina agrees with it, is that, okay, this is very specific, specifically monetary rather than verbal. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think that that's something that people would rather you do?
Hina, it's not wrong what you say, but it's not appreciation, it's recognition for the success. So if they were successful, they want to see that they're going to be recognized for it, and they want to be paid fairly. But you know that when you give that kind of a thing, it's immediately forgotten after you got the bonus. Where you got the bonus on February, now you are coming to May, you don't remember that. Now I'm going to run through few things, but we don't have a lot of time, so I can tell you, you could find here ways how to be better appreciator, how to be effective appreciator. I actually did some research about it since 2006, actually. And in order to make sure that I don't talk for long, you could download this from here, and you're going to receive a bonus also, 11 simple things that you could make your workplace kinder as well. So you're just going to register there, you get it, and you're going to get a weekly quote from us, an invitation for our events, should you like to. And if you don't want to stay in touch, you can always unsubscribe.
Well, as you've said, Avi, we are coming up to about 45 minutes at the moment. Is there any last comments that you really want to kind of share on this topic of appreciation and what the impact it can do to make workplaces, delightful rather than terrible?
Actually, appreciation is gratitude in action, is moving the gratitude from a static place that you are grateful for someone and share with them how you appreciate it. And the funny thing, research shows that when you do that, three types of people enjoy. Number one, you enjoy because giving appreciation to someone is really a joyful thing to do. The receiver, of course, enjoys. The bystanders that look at the appreciation, they also enjoy. And the ripple effect of that on you, on the person that you appreciated, on the person that saw the appreciation, is phenomenal. And it's easy to do. I chose this for today because it's really practical and it doesn't take a PhD. And I know Philip has a PhD, and it's something that is really amazing, but it doesn't take a PhD in order to become a great appreciator. And if you download the steps that I say, spot, and how to do it, when to do it, you might really enjoy more. You're going to become a person that is more appreciated. I did appreciative inquiry, so did Philip, with Dr. David Cooperrider. And he said something that what you appreciate appreciates. When you appreciate something, it appreciates in its value. So if you want to have a more valuable life, appreciate. And one more thing I want to tell you, don't be like a bank. A bank is going to give you money if you have money, and it will give you the umbrella in the summer, but will take it at winter. You should be the other way around. People that are around you that are down, people that need encouragement, be the person, be the chief encouraging officer. Go to them, uplift them. And people are like good stocks. Imagine if you could invest in Apple 20 years ago when the stock price was low. That is the best investment. At the time when they need the encouragement is the time that you make the greatest friendship, the genuine friendship, the authenticity there. And that is where you're going to go. Don't just appreciate the top. Look down, uplift up, be the uplifter, and you're going to get lots of friends. And as I mentioned to you at the beginning, 3 things will happen to you. You're going to make everybody much better. And if everybody on your team is better, you're doing better. If you invest in other people, you're going to get 10 times and more. And most important, this habit will make you much, much happier.
All right. We have one last question from Hina. If you could just give a quick answer, is there do you think there's an age boundary? Is there a job boundary? Is it like, should CEOs do it? Should everybody do it? What do you think?
Hina, I would need some clarification about the age boundary. I don't think that it's age related. You could be 5 years old and appreciate everything in life, and you could be 100 years old and appreciate. So I don't understand the the age limit. Maybe you could explain it to me so I answer what exactly so I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Right.
Um,
Johnson
see,
has expressed some appreciation to you for taking the question. Hina, if you could just sort of clarify it for us, we can answer it now. If not, I'm sure Avi is happy to leave a comment after this. But as we come up to the top of the hour, I do want to say this though. I appreciate you taking the time, Avi, to be here with me. I really appreciate the thought that you've put into it, the preparation, and all these gems that you're sharing with us today. And I truly hope that this will help make our workplaces a little bit more delightful, a little bit more wonderful. And for those of you who are joining me today, all of you from Philip to Vadane, Hina, Robin, Wayne and Maytel, thank you so much for being here. I also appreciate your here with us, interacting with us, listening, and I hope this has been helpful for you. I would really just let me know if you guys want to hear from something else or another aspect of workplace health, and I will try to get the people together to bring together the value that I can in this area to all of you. Okay, so Tina just says that normally the big bosses they don't appreciate because they are the seniors.
well, I think that they're missing the point. As I told you, there's some good places where there's several easy things to do that they don't do. Maybe the first thing that they need is to contact me and to have the course Chief Delighting Officer, or at least have my keynote on your next
Yes,
town
yes,
hall. But I do agree with you, Hina. It's really demoralizing when you feel unappreciated, and there's so much more that you could do that. Maybe last remark, if you allow me, Serene, I want to
yes,
thank you, and I want to say that when in your work about conscious organization, the reason why I was attracted to come to your cast is because I believe you're doing a great job about making conscious organizations that are purposeful, and it goes hand in hand that conscious organization have appreciation built in. So keep the good work of working with organization and with HR, making better HR organizations. So if the HR organizations are not conscious and are not appreciative inside, how do you expect them to be the source of that? So thank you for your great work that you're doing and
thank you,
for choosing me to be one of the people on your platform. I
thank
appreciate
you,
the opportunity.
thank you. And I also appreciate. I think the work that I do is like what Philip says, right? It's purposeful and it's meaningful. And when you see businesses change and really give people that wellness and that strength, I really do appreciate it. Right.
There's a question from
Oh,
Johnson.
there's another question. Oh, okay. Okay, last question. Okay, guys. Okay. So is it good to agree to disagree at the workplace? I th-
Oh, well, you know what? As an Israeli, we are a very argumentative people. When people see two Israeli talk, they think that they are quarreling. They are not. And sometimes agreeing to disagree is sign of respect. Is sign of you have your opinion, I have my opinion, and my guru is 85 years old. His name is Lenny. And he said, once I had an opinion, and that was the worst day of my life. If you don't want to take yourself too seriously, for creativity, it's good to have conflicts. It's good to have conflicting ideas because the collision of different ideas make better ideas. If you don't share your ideas, the only thing you need to do it is you agree to disagree respectfully, not in animosity, not, oh, I hate you, you hate me, I think differently. And that's maybe the source of evil in our world. We want to be right all the time. And I would say, don't try to be right, do the right thing. And even if you have a different idea, your challenge is how to build the influence to move and shift people to your idea. So agree to disagree is a great way not to quarrel and to say, you think A, I think B, let's see who is right. Let's find a way of rigorous way to measure that. And this could be actually an harmonious act rather than divisive act.
yes. And actually, I agree with you. I mean, I think I've just done my Belbin team's, certification. We talked about how different people getting onto the team and actually being very different makes the team much stronger. And definitely from a team building point of view, that's where we are aiming at. Okay, so that's our last question. Some gratitude from Hina, and thank you so much to all of you guys. Thank you, Hina, Johnson, all of you guys, Matel, and thank you so much, Avi. And I'll see you next week on Thursday. I'm speaking to one of my mentors, Ron Kaufman. He's one of the guys who has been talking like so much about how we can truly care and love for each other. And so that will be on Thursday, and you can find it on my LinkedIn. All right. And buy Avi's book. Bye bye. Thanks, guys.